Hello, everybody, and welcome to CPAC 2021 here in Dallas, Texas. My name is Alex Caldwell, and joining me is Alabama Congressman Mo Brooks. Thank you, sir, for coming on to our show today.
My pleasure. Happy to be at CPAC with you.
We're happy to have you. You made a huge announcement recently. What are you running for?
Well, I'm a candidate for the United States Senate in Alabama. It's an open seat. Looks very, very promising according to the polling data. Could probably do a little bit better with fundraising, but I'm looking forward to serving the United States Senate, both for the people of Alabama and the United States of America.
Well, you had somebody endorse you very recently, somebody very important who we all know. Who might that have been?
Well, you're probably referring to President Donald J. Trump.
Yes.
That's a very good endorsement to have in the state of Alabama. President Trump, from our vantage point, did a great job, and he absolutely blew the socks off of Joe Biden in November of 2020.
Mm-hmm. Well, getting his endorsement, getting the blessing of President Trump, that's a real honor. What was it like when you got that endorsement from him?
Well, it was excitement. It was relief. It was a lot of different emotions. But the bottom line is it separates you from all the other candidates. Mm-hmm. President Trump is very well respected in Alabama generally and in the Republican primary in particular. And it helps communicate to voters who might be confused about who is the real conservative versus who is the pretend conservative. Mm-hmm. And as you well know, and a lot of people around the country know, far too often we have people running in Republican primaries who do the polling, they know what to parrot back to the public, they parrot back to the public these things, then they get elected and they don't keep their campaign promises. Well, with Mo Brooks and President Donald Trump's ratification, you know that you get a fearless, fighting conservative in the United States Senate if you send me to the United States Senate from Alabama.
So when you go to the Senate on day one, what's something that you would like to accomplish during your time there?
Well, the first thing is unseat Chuck Schumer, okay, as the majority leader. That's number one. But on a public policy level, we've got to do what is necessary to be more financially responsible. We cannot put the United States of America into a national insolvency and bankruptcy, yet that's where we're headed because we have so many debt junkies in the United States Senate, and that's a bipartisan problem. The Democrats are almost unanimous debt junkies, but on the Republican side, probably a majority of our Republican senators are debt junkies too, far too willing to spend money we don't have to borrow to get, and can't afford to pay back. We also have to continue to fight for liberty and freedom. We have to beat back the dictatorial nature of socialism. Mm-hmm. That is an evil economic doctrine that ultimately results in the demise of nations, yet the United States of America is playing with it. We need to point out how dangerous that is. And we need to secure the southern border. That is a major problem, but unfortunately the Biden administration, the Socialist Democrats, are encouraging the problem rather than fixing the problem. That's just touching on a few of them. There are a myriad of other issues, moral values, you name it. The socialists are on the march in America, and they're fighting in every possible battlefront they can create, and we need people in Washington who are willing to fight back because our country is at stake.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying all the things you'd like to do when you get to the Senate, but I'm curious, what made you want to run for the Senate? You've been in the House for several years now. What made you want to run for the Senate? That's a pretty big commitment.
In the United States Senate, you're better positioned to impact public policy. So if you want to magnify your belief system, if you want to magnify your impact on the direction of your country, the Senate is a much better place to be than in the House of Representatives. Just the numbers of it. You're one out of 100 senators in a closely divided body versus 1 in 435 House members. Mm-hmm. So you've got the math aspect of it. You've also got the rules aspect of it. In the House of Representatives, if you're not in the majority, you're not going to impact the direction of the House of Representatives policies very much. In the House right now, the socialists are voting lockstep with each other, so the Republicans have minimal, if at any, influence on the direction of our country from the House of Representatives perspective. But in the Senate, they have a different set of rules, and those rules empower the minority to have a bigger impact on public policy. In the Senate, you get to vote on confirmation of justices and judges at the federal court level. You don't have any vote at all in the House of Representatives. You also have in the Senate a vote on public policy of a foreign policy nature. And in the House, you don't have much in the way of that either. Say, for example, confirmation of ambassadors or ratification of treaties. That's a Senate thing, not a House thing. So all these things put together mean that if you're in the United States Senate, you're much better positioned to impact public policy in the direction you want your country to go.
Well, you know, right now the Senate is very divided. We have a 50-50 Senate, and the House is divided as well. It is a close partisan majority for the Democrats in the House, but the Senate is 50-50. And one of the things that the Democrats have been arguing for is that they should make the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., the 51st U.S. state, which would guarantee 2 more Democrat senators in the U.S. Senate. And I was wondering, where do you stand on an issue like that?
Well, that's just a Democrat power grab. If you want the people in the District of Columbia to have the right to vote on U.S. senators, then the way you do that is by sending back to Maryland that part of the District of Columbia where those people are who want to vote on those senators. That is what has already happened once in American history. Northern Virginia, Northeastern Virginia, Alexandria, Arlington, they used to be a part of the District of Columbia. It was sent back to Virginia. Those residents then have the ability to vote on U.S. senators, and we can do the same thing with the Maryland portion of District of Columbia if that is the desired solution. But to make the District of Columbia, what's left of it, the Maryland part of it, a state unto itself is absurd. That'd be about like making my congressional district in the northern part of Alabama a state unto itself. That's the kind of political power you would suddenly bestow upon a very tiny area of the United States of America. And I'm opposed to the District of Columbia being a state, but I'm comfortable with transferring that land back to Maryland because that's what we've done in the past.
I'm curious also to see where you stand on another issue that has been facing our government right now. The Democrats have been saying they're trying to come up with a bipartisan plan for infrastructure, allocating trillions of dollars for infrastructure, and Chuck Schumer has said we're going to get something that's bipartisan, but right now we haven't really seen a lot of bipartisan support on that issue. A lot of Republicans have spoken out against that, and I was also wondering where you stood on the infrastructure that Biden has wanted to push forward.
If it is not properly paid for, I will vote against it. No ifs, ands, or buts. We have a major risk of a national insolvency and bankruptcy. We're about to blow through the $30 trillion debt mark. If we're going to have an infrastructure plan, we have to have a reasonable way of paying for it rather than just borrowing more money and putting us further and further into debt. And it's very unfortunate that we have so many economically reckless and feckless people in the House of Representatives and the United States Senate who apparently don't give a darn about whether our country goes belly up because of politicians who are so willing to spend our future. So let me see a plan that is actually paid for, that is not borrowed on the backs of future generations, that does not increase the risk of a debilitating national insolvency and bankruptcy that would do great damage to a country it took 200 years to build, and I'll consider it. But until then, forget it. I'm not one of those reckless, financially irresponsible people in Washington, D.C.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your intake on that. I want to switch to another issue with immigration right now, something that's a huge issue with our country. And we're in Dallas right now, but Texas is still the state with El Paso, where we have a huge problem with the border and illegal immigration. And Vice President Harris was going to travel to the border, and she did, but she went to the part that didn't really have a whole lot of issues. And I was wondering, what do you think about Biden and his plan with immigration, and do you think that they're doing a good job with immigration and handling it well?
The socialists are not at all going to do anything at all about border security of substance that protects the American people. Let me give you an idea of how bad this situation is. Each year, according to federal government crime data, roughly 2,000 dead Americans at the hands of illegal aliens killed on American soil. They'd be alive right now, 2,000 per year, but for the porous southern border. You've got another 30+ thousand Americans who are dead each year because of our porous southern border. Deadly narcotics that are shipped, smuggled across our porous southern border that result in overdoses and deaths of American citizens. So we're well into the 30,000+ mark now, dead Americans because of our porous southern border. You've got depressed incomes because employers are much happier hiring cheap foreign labor than they are paying necessary wage rates for American citizens. You've got Americans who are suffering from wage suppression and job losses because of our poor southern border. You've got taxpayers who are being hamstrung and hurt. Roughly $9,000 per year is the taxpayer subsidy for each illegal alien on American soil at the city, county, state, and federal level. Net tax losses. All of these things dictate a stronger presence on our southern border. But the Democrats won't agree to any of those things. They're willing to sacrifice American lives. They're willing to sacrifice the incomes of American families. They're willing to sacrifice the solvencies of city, county, state, and the federal government because of a power grab. They know that these illegal aliens, if granted amnesty and citizenship as promised by Joe Biden in the presidential debates in 2020, that they are solid Democrat voters because they're welfare dependent. So that's what it's all about. And it's a shame that President Joe Biden and the socialists are willing to sacrifice the lives of American citizens on the altar of a political power grab, but that is exactly what they're doing, and that's why you're not going to see anything other than lip service from this administration or the socialists who are in control of the House and the Senate.
Well, another thing that President Biden had said he was going to do for illegal immigrants was he was going to give them free health care, and it was a promise that he made during the debate. They had asked the question, and he had raised his hand amongst all of the other Democrat contenders. So I was wondering, well, what do you think about them getting health care, and what do you think about health care in general? Is Biden tackling this correctly?
Well, of course Biden is not tackling this correctly. We should not be giving away the farm to encourage illegal aliens to break our laws. But that is exactly what President Biden, Kamala Harris, and the socialists are doing in the House and the Senate. We don't have enough money to be the world's sugar daddy. We just don't. We can't give it all away. And it's so reckless and it's so dangerous. Reckless and dangerous in the context of, if we go belly up as a nation, you need to start thinking about the cascading effects, okay? Mm-hmm. If we can't pay our bills, if we're in default, that means that we may be stripped of our military capability, which means that you're putting America's national security at risk. How many lives could die because an aggressor nation feels that this is the time to take advantage of a weakened America that no longer has the military capability necessary to defend our country because we no longer have the ability to pay for it because we've gone into insolvency and bankruptcy? How many people are going to die because there's no longer health care for American citizens, or there's not the free housing or the welfare, the food on the table that is given to so many American citizens? How many people are going to die when all of a sudden they're forced to get jobs in an environment where there are no jobs because the economy has collapsed, because the central government has gone bankrupt and belly up? We're talking about real danger, real loss of American lives. And so that needs to be addressed before we do a lot of these other things that these socialists want to mandate.
I do have one more question for you, switching gears a little bit, and this is a very, very important question, and I want you to be completely honest with me. Don't hold back. Just be completely honest. War Eagle or Roll Tide?
Well, you're not going to like my answer, okay? My wife and I graduated from the University of Alabama, so Roll Tide, baby, Roll Tide. But my two sons went to Auburn. My money and my sons went to Auburn, no. So War Eagle.
That was the wrong answer. But, nobody's perfect. So
we're a house divided.
Well, thank you very much, Congressman, for coming on today. We appreciate having you. We look forward to hearing you speak today. Which day are you speaking? If
I'm speaking prime time tonight, center stage at CPAC. I look forward to it, and I hope my remarks will inspire people to do what's done to save our country from the mess that we're headed towards.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Congressman, for coming on. I'm signing out here with Congressman Mo Brooks from Alabama's 5th Congressional District, candidate for the United States Senate. Thank you very much, Congressman.
Oh, and MoBrooks.com. MoBrooks.com if you want to help.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you.